Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream here on the channel for the Black Hood Crew. I am your streamer slash chauffeur, BHCxDark. Name is always right here in the corner. And as always, you can follow along on YouTube and Facebook at the Black Hood Crew, and follow along at my name directly on Twitch, Twitter, Steam, Trovo, TikTok, Instagram, and Kick. Welcome to Monday. Monday. It is June 5th, 2023, and I'm on my way to work. It is I would call it partly cloudy day, at least where I am right now. See some dark clouds off in the distance, mostly off to the north and the west. Hasn't rained a drop here so far today, so we'll see how it goes going forward. We shall see. Yesterday was a pretty decent day for a Sunday, at least for the time I was there. I am in charge, at least for next 6 weeks or so, of someone else's training that started on Friday, this past Friday. It's my first time training somebody in how to do essentially the same job I'm doing. So it is very interesting. I'm trying my best to try to convey all the information that needs to be conveyed, while also showing them why the information I'm conveying is important, why it is relevant. Trying to do a 2-in-1. I show them what it is, or I explain to them what it is, why it is that it is important to our job, and then I try to find work scenarios where what I just went over is relevant. Like, a perfect example is like adding insurance to a patient's file. You can show somebody or explain it to them 1,000 different ways, but until they see it done in real time, it won't click for them. And that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to give that kind of instruction. The explaining part, and then immediately showing them a situation where what I just showed them, what I just explained, is relevant. So hopefully this person is getting it. They've already got the basics down, at least when it comes to arriving patients to the ED. That's the easy part. Going forward, I'm going to continue to instruct them on that. But starting today, we're going to do the back end work. This is the part where we actually are directly interacting with the patients. And I'm going to do my best to be there as an instructor to show them what needs to be done, how it's done, and then have them jump on and then act as more of a support role from then on forward, so that they understand that if at any point in time they have any questions, I am there, while also making sure that they are doing the job correctly. It's that house. So we'll see how today's going to go. Today being Monday, and we know that Mondays are the busiest days. So we'll see. I will update tomorrow on my next episode of me driving to work, as how today goes. In other news, I know people have been doing this for a while now, but I installed an emulator onto my PC not too long ago. But this one in particular is for the Nintendo Switch. Now, obviously, there is a sense of gray when it comes to emulation as opposed to it just being strictly black and white when it comes to the law. So I'm going to put it you like this. Having an emulator installed on your PC with no games is not illegal. However, once you start putting games on, that's where the gray comes in. And what I mean is this. If you do not own the game already, if you do not own a legitimate copy of the game already, in this case a Switch game, let's say the game is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. If you do not own already a copy of Breath of the Wild, and you download a copy of it from the internet, you are breaking the law. You are breaking quite a few laws, actually. Mostly it's copyright, copyright laws, property laws, things of that nature. It's illegal, and if you're caught with it, you can be fined or even jailed for it. Depending on like how many of it. If it's just one game, then most likely you just get a fine. But if they find that you have the entire Switch library saved on your computer, yeah, you're pretty much looking at jail time at that point. However, and this is where more of the gray comes in, if you do own a copy of Breath of the Wild and download a digital copy, or in some cases make your own digital copy of the game, you are not doing anything illegal. But if you share that digital copy of a game you already own, then again, you're breaking the law. So you see how it kind of gets a little confused. It's not just straight black and white. So you can own a digital copy of the game, but for your own personal use. The moment you make it available to others, whether they own a copy of the game or not, you are now breaking the law. Now, if you pass it on to another person and they do not own a copy of the game, congratulations, you just helped someone else break the law while breaking the law yourself. So again, you see, it's a bit of an issue there. Now, reason I bring it up, because not only did I install a Nintendo Switch emulator onto my computer, but I have downloaded both a copy of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom onto my computer. Now, as we have already established, I own copies of both of these games. I spent my own money purchasing a legit copy of these games. And I will be using them for my own personal use, which is just playing the games on my computer. But because they are running on a computer through an emulator, I now have access to mods for the game. Some people like to use skin replacement mods, model replacement mods. I prefer more like gameplay modification mods. One of the first ones I downloaded just to see how it feels is a gameplay mod that removes the degradation mechanic from the game, making all weapons last indefinitely, regardless of how often you use it or in what sense you use it. This is for weapons, shields, and bows. So now I have shields that will never break, which means I can shield surf all day long without fear of degrading my equipment or breaking it. Now, this still applies to elemental effects. So, what do I mean by that? Very simple. Carry a wooden weapon or a wooden shield. If it catches fire, it will still burn away and be destroyed. So that is still a thing. But if you use it to just block attacks, non-fire-based attacks, they will not degrade on impact, from the impact. The degradation from shield surfing is not there. Bows, I can use any bow I want as often as I want. At this point, I'm only limited by how many arrows I have. And since I'm constantly picking them up and buying them in every shop I visit, I constantly have a nice steady stream of arrows to use. And then going forward, as well as weapons, they do not degrade. So that means I can use any weapon I want, as many times as I want, as often as I want, regardless if I actually deal damage to the enemy, or they end up blocking my attack, or I just use it to destroy the environment. Like if I was to create, like a stone hammer, I can use it to destroy the environment as I see fit, without fear of having to lose that weapon or tool in this case, and having to scramble to find the replacement. I've been playing it with like that for a while, and yeah, it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. It feels like cheating at this point because now my inventory is full of only powerful weapons that I can unleash on the enemy. And because I'm using a digital copy of the game, I can upgrade or downgrade the version of the game that I'm using to suit my needs. And in this particular case, this is more having to do with the duplication glitches that were recently patched in version 1.1.2, but were present at launch and with a subsequent update from that, version 1.1.1. And the duplication glitches, it's really more for materials than anything else. Although people have found ways to duplicate zonite devices from your inventory, as well as weapons, shields, and bows. Those I never really bothered with because the game does have an abundance of weapons, shields, and bows. So needing to duplicate a particular weapon, bow, or shield, I never found that as a necessity, because even with a game like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, where there is that weapon degradation and you can break weapons, they're always replenishing you. Like there's always opportunities to find bigger, badder weapons. Later on in the game, depending on how strong you are, end game equipment has extra features attached to it. Sometimes they have, damage increase additions to it, durability increases, things of that nature. Bows that can fire multiple arrows at the same time while only using one from your inventory. You'll find that as you play along. Come on. Let's go. Oh, wow. Car facing the other way. Fun. Did you get spun out? But with this gameplay modification I added to my digital copy of Tears of the Kingdom, I can keep whatever weapon I want, and now it becomes more of a preference thing. Do I want this weapon over that weapon? Do I like this aesthetic or that aesthetic? So at this point, it becomes a personal preference thing. Same with shields and bows, but personally, and this is how I prefer to play the game, knowing that I can have that kind of inventory, is... Did they start the light thing? There's no way they started it. So they've tried to implement traffic lights on on-ramps, or at least tried to, that would only let a certain number of people go, stop the flow of traffic, and then let them go again, a few vehicles at a time. In this particular case, there's a sign saying that the green light is green long enough to allow 2 vehicles to go. That is a way of them trying to alleviate traffic on the highway itself, but all they're doing is backing up traffic to the on-ramp and subsequent surface streets. It's a bad idea. Just let the traffic, because at least on the highway, there is no stopping. There's no red lights you need to worry about. There's no pedestrian traffic. It's just vehicle traffic all flowing in one direction. But anyway, so I added a couple others. Simple, things to just make the game flow a little bit better. The ability to skip unskippable cutscenes now been added. Because I play on my PC using a PlayStation 5 controller, if you pause Tears of the Kingdom and switch all the way to the right menu, you'll see a button layout with a controller in the center. Now, depending on what you're playing on the Switch, it'd either be a set of Joy-Cons side by side, or a Pro controller layout, and then it basically tells you what each button does with the layout there in front of you. I added a mod, which I found online, that allows that graphic to be changed from a Pro controller or even Joy-Cons to a PlayStation 5 controller with the buttons still mapped accordingly. It's fun seeing a PlayStation 5 controller on your pause screen for a Nintendo game. It's kind of funny. But again, this is more of just a visual aesthetic. All right, so Ring King chimes in down below. He says, should Nintendo start making more rated M games in your opinion? Do you think Zelda 64 should get a full remake now that we've seen more games being remade? We actually saw the Zelda remake, and the 64, he means Ocarina of Time, which came out on the 64. We saw that remake come out on the 3DS. The same with Majora's Mask. Both games on the 3DS got a visual update, gameplay update. Not necessarily a content update. They were still the same game, but they were upgraded in a sense to work on different set of hardware, so they actually played smoother on the 3DS than they did on the N64, even through an emulator. If you're talking about like a full-on remake, like say the Resident Evil remakes got, or a Link's Awakening did on the Switch, nah, it's not necessary. I mean, because they already did it once already with the 3DS for Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. I have both of those, by the way. They're great remakes. What I would like to see is the Link's Awakening remake treatment, but for Oracle of Ages and Oracle Seasons both came out on the Game Boy Color. If you never played those games, they are very highly rated, very highly recommended. Great titles, great Zelda games from the Game Boy Color. If they got the Link's Awakening treatment for the Switch, for me, that's a day one purchase. Guaranteed day one purchase. And if they continued the Link mechanic, maybe not with passwords, but with like a game save, where you can carry over your story data from one game to the next, I'm buying both titles day one. I don't care how much it costs. I'm buying. Dude, you're gonna let me in. I don't care who you think you are, you're letting me in. Flippin' idiot. So yeah, would a Zelda 64 or Ocarina of Time remake be relevant right now? Not really, because again, the 3DS was a remake. I would actually prefer them to give the Link's Awakening treatment in terms of remake capability to the Oracles, Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, and have it both released at the same time. Sell it as a 2-pack for all I care. That would be great. Again, I would buy it first day. Any others? I mean, A Link to the Past would be absolutely monster if they gave that the remake treatment. That game would absolutely crush everything out there, because that's the game that gave us so many mechanics, so many gameplay things that are just referenced again and again and reused again and again in Zelda games. A big one is the two-world dichotomy that we saw in Ocarina of Time with the past versus the future. Link to the Past did it first with the light world versus the dark world. The Master Sword actually being relevant to the story started in A Link to the Past and actually made it a requirement to get the Master Sword. Link to the Past did it first. The hook shot, a very famous tool in Link's arsenal, again, used many times in subsequent Zelda titles, got its first iteration in A Link to the Past. There's just so much that A Link to the Past brought to the table that if that game were to get the remake treatment, it would be an absolute banger. Day one purchase, 100%. So that's already 3 Zelda games that if they got the remake treatment would be day one purchases. Link to the Past, Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages. They would be day one purchases. I don't care what else is going on in my life. Those are day one purchases. And physical cards. Like, I'm all for digital gaming, but when it comes to something like that, it's worth getting the physical copy. Which I did for both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and Link's Awakening, and Skyward Sword. So yeah, definitely those 3 titles, if they got the remake treatment, would be hands down day one purchases. Does Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask need it yet? Not yet. However, this is where my butt comes in. If they were to do a 2-in-1 cart package where it had both the remake of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on a single cart with, say, updated graphics, updated gameplay mechanics, and updated content, then yes, I will pick that up day one. That package, you as a Zelda fan, I would be out of my damn mind if I didn't pick that up. But as it stands now, especially with them having both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask available, and this is the original versions, both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask available on their not the eShop, the Switch Online with expansion pack. If you have the expansion pass, which includes N64 emulation on your Switch, you have access to the original versions of both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. So that's more of a nostalgia thing for those of us that were around during that time. but you do have access to that if you have that online service, which I do. And I've played them both, beat them already, still great experiences even today. So I wouldn't necessarily expect Nintendo to pull the remake off of that, while I'm still waiting for them to remake Metroid Prime 2 Echoes and Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. Still waiting on those. Chop chop, Nintendo. But yeah, Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask, not yet. I would say give it another 5 years or so before doing the remake and dropping that title on people. But Link's Awakening is already a remake from Game Boy, a remake that looks like Breath of the Wild would obliterate the one on 3DS. You're right, but if they were to remake, say, Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask in the style or size of, say, Breath of the Wild, you would essentially be creating a new game. Because if you really look at the world of Ocarina of Time, the overworld, it was empty. There was no, foot traffic. The only monsters that would appear out in the overworld were at night with the Style children. You didn't really see any actual enemy action until you dove into the dungeons. The moment they try and do a remake of Ocarina of Time, like in a sense to make it more like Breath of the Wild, then you'll start getting the comparisons. This is too much like Breath of the Wild. There's too much Breath of the Wild influence in this Ocarina of Time remake. And that's what I don't want. I want Ocarina of Time. I don't want a Breath of the Wild treatment of Ocarina of Time. Get what I'm saying? And the Link's Awakening remake that got done for the Switch is top shelf. It's fantastic. But we do need remakes of Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, as well as A Link to the Past. Those are the ones that need to be remade now. So, I've arrived at work. Definitely gonna have to grab my umbrella because the rain has started to fall over here. So I will be back again tomorrow. We could definitely continue this tomorrow. I'll be back again 3:30-ish tomorrow afternoon for another episode of me driving to work. I have been BHCxDark. Name is always here in the corner. YouTube and Facebook at The Black Hood Crew. My name directly on Twitch, Twitter, Steam, Trovo, TikTok, Instagram, and Kick. Until tomorrow, please, everyone, be safe, be smart, and be